I'm Stephen Walker, author of Lemp, The Haunting History. And in today's episode of Lemp Lessons, I'll be focusing on Lillian Handlan Lemp. Although Lillian was not born a Lemp, she was destined to make a deep and lasting impact on the family's history, and could arguably be known, perhaps in more ways than one, as the family's most colorful character. Lillian was born in 1877 to Molly and Alexander Handlan. Mr. Handlan was the president of a successful railroad supply company and moved freely within business and political circles. As a result, Lillian made many of the same connections and became a well-known and beloved fixture in St. Louis society. Though the family residence is long gone, the Handlans lived on Lindell Boulevard, next to the fashionable St. Regis Apartments and across the street from the elegant Chase Park Plaza Hotel. As devout Catholics, the family worshipped at St. Francis Xavier Church, which still stands at Grand and Lindell on the campus of St. Louis University. Here, as a young lady, Lillian often enjoyed arriving to the church shortly before Mass began, outfitted in a dress made of taffeta, a crisp, scratchy fabric that would allow her to swish as she walked up the aisle to take her place in the family's usual seat at the front of the church. This allowed her to be noticed by the entire congregation. Eventually, Lillian would become attracted to the color lavender, incorporating it into nearly every ensemble she wore. Perhaps the earliest documented mention of Lillian's love of lavender came on June 18, 1899, when the society page of the St. Louis Globe-Democrat announced her engagement to William J. Lemp, Jr., or Billy as he was commonly known. In describing the lovely Lillian, the society reporter stated, "Her delicate blonde beauty elicits a great deal of admiration. She affects purple in her dress, the violet tints serving as an admirable frill for her soft blonde hair and rose-leaf complexion." Lillian's well-known preference for her favorite color would soon earn her the nickname of the Lavender Lady. And it's easy to see why. Lillian's wardrobe included not only lavender gowns, stockings, and hats, but shoes, gloves, parasols, and stockings as well. When her son, William J. Lemp III, was born, the color scheme of his nursery was lavender. A few years after their wedding, the marriage between Lillian and Billy grew stressful and unhappy. The relationship steadily deteriorated, leading Lillian to file for divorce in 1909. The case, still recognized as one of the most sensational in the city's history, was front-page news for weeks. There were plenty of charges from both parties, and one bone of contention on Billy's part was his wife's preoccupation with lavender. While testifying at the divorce trial, Billy complained that his wife, quote, dressed in such a manner as to make herself conspicuous, unquote. He went on to state that it wasn't so much the color he objected to, but, in his words, it was the almost constant wearing. Lillian countered with a claim that she didn't remember ever wearing lavender in her life. Her bold statement caused a ripple of laughter from observers in the courtroom, perhaps because the citizens of the day knew better. Today, more than a century after her sensational divorce, many pieces of the famous lavender clothing that once graced Lillian's petite 4'11" frame are carefully preserved and cataloged in the collections of the Missouri History Museum. On a recent visit to that facility, I met with Adam McFarland, curator of clothing and textiles, who graciously brought out many of the fragile and priceless items that are in the museum's permanent care.
Hi, I am Adam McFarland, and I am the curator of clothing and textiles here at the Missouri Historical Society. And today I've pulled out some of our pieces that were worn by Lillian Lemp, otherwise known as the Lavender Lady. Okay, so we're going to open up the first box of Lillian Lemp's garments. These were donated mostly in 1963 by a pair of sisters who were still trying to figure out their exact connection, but they do appear to have a connection to Lillian directly. So not everything that we have in our collection. We have about 17, 18 pieces that were worn by Lillian. Not all of them have lavender, but quite a few do. So here on top we have a couple of different things. So we have here a muff that is a silk net with the lavender trim, and then this matching capelet here as well. And you can see the purple color on the outside, but she even liked the purple flowers on the inside too. So something that wouldn't be seen by the general public necessarily. And you can see these are in a little bit of rough shape, so that's why they're stored in boxes, because they are fairly fragile. So we have quite a few things in this box. So a lot of them, I'm not going to flip too much because I don't want to damage the objects here. If I can kind of pull so you can see little hints of a nightgown here. And this one, in this case, has blue instead of lavender. So it's not, she did do other colors, not just purple. And then we have some various lace pieces that are collars or attachments to garments or worn with others. Here, let me use my cheat sheet here to make sure I tell you right on this one, is a silk shawl, kind of a cape shawl. Here, we were just talking about whether she had her own dressmaker doing things or went out and bought, and I don't have that kind of information, but this one is one that has a French label in it, J'ai Breton. But here is another kind of short jacket. And they all the pieces that we have in the MHS collection date to around the 1900 to 1910 period. Yeah, so this one is a nightgown of some type, and what I love is it's got the pink ribbon, and it's got this kind of gray ribbon that's got a little bit of a purplish hue to it, but then on the inside, she's snuck in lavender. So she didn't have it visible on, obviously not many people would be seeing her in this. This is a nightgown, but she did still like having her lavender visible. So this is one of our premier Lillian Lemp pieces. Being the lavender lady and being someone that wore lavender a lot, this one kind of epitomizes that, and it's in remarkably good shape. So this is from around 1909, and features this velvet that has this kind of speckled pattern on it, and it's pretty close to the original color. It's maybe a little bit yellowed, but it is a very soft, it's not a bright lavender color. It's a very soft muted color, but it's in pretty good condition. It's missing some of its leaves here, a little bit of its flowers here, but would have been worn for an evening event of some type. And she was, from what I can tell, seems to be a fairly modest woman. So she did tend to have higher necklines and stuff, even as a younger woman.
After her divorce, Lillian did not remarry. She lived a quiet life, largely out of the public spotlight, and she retreated even further after the death of her beloved son in 1943. From that point until her death in 1960, Lillian never wore lavender again.